Producer Leong, and in this new Spotify series, I sit down with brilliant and inspiring Australians to have an unfiltered conversation about all things podcasts. What are they listening to? Why do they enjoy them? And hopefully discover some new podcasts for myself. This is More Than Talk. Today I'm talking to former Australian of the Year and one of the country's most influential people, Grace Tame. A passionate activist, advocate and survivor. I know she has a great sense of humour and I'm really keen to chat about what podcast she enjoys in her downtime and explore a side to her that we don't always get to see. So we have a couple of quite close friends in common and I love them both for so many reasons, but I think for me, while they're amazing at banter, what I love is that they're not afraid to go deep and sort of avoid the whole small talk thing. I don't suspect you're a small talk kind of gal.
Me, no. I find small talk quite impossible. Authenticity and integrity are two of my highest values. I always want to get to the heart of the conversation, as soon as possible.
Are you the kind of person when you're in a room with a whole bunch of random people, which you so often are, seek out the real connections and sort of try and, have the real conversations instead of doing the whole dancing around polite subjects?
Yeah, well, I don't beat around the bush. I think that's probably pretty obvious at this point. But, you also can't force connections either. As much as I'm a talker and that's what I'm obviously known for is standing up and sort of being an advocate for a community. A huge part of my job is also listening and just sitting with and receiving stories. And there's nothing more special than like raw, pure human connection.
Like, how often do you listen to podcasts? What are you doing when you're listening to podcasts?
Well, when I lived in America and I studied briefly at just a community college, which is like a public college, did a bit of art just, again, as a hobby while I was there. But I ended up falling into illustrating as a job while I was there. That's when I remember listening to podcasts. And I do remember listening to Brian Cox.
Yeah.
Now, Brian Cox is friends with Eric Idle, who's one of the founding members of Monty Python.
Yes, he is.
One of the very few things that I was able to connect with my father on was comedy, and Monty Python was one of those things. Yeah, I had a very confused sense of identity because of that instability and because my autism went undiagnosed. And I did have a very I did feel very lonely as a kid. And, yeah, comedy was one of those things that I really lent on.
Let's talk about the podcast you've chosen to talk about because there is that ribbon of humour running through things that bring to light some pretty depressing, frustrating, important issues to life, starting with the Betoota Advocate, which I love. I mean, I don't think a day goes past that I don't forward an Instagram post to a friend and be like, this guy. But you were on the podcast and that's how you found out that there was a podcast.
Yes. I like you, same thing, and I think probably most
every Australian.
Most people in Australia who have a sense of humour would do the same. And unfortunately, it's the people that don't have a sense of humour who just would.
Yeah.
While they are, satire, they strike that perfect balance between total silliness and supreme intellect. You could accuse Betoota of being left-leaning, which perhaps they are. They might be, a little bit. They might target Scott a little bit more.
That guy.
But let's face it, how can you avoid that massive comedy piñata? But they'll also make fun of Albo and his, wanker sneakers and all of that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like they, strike a balance.
Yeah.
These are guys who have their finger on the pulse constantly. And as funny as it is, it's right on the money.
Yeah.
It's just about always right on the money.
Yeah.
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 And they do their research. And in doing that, what they've done is they've kept a demographic or perhaps several demographics who would otherwise be totally disengaged with politics, engaged.
So things, podcasts like Betoota, and also, the next one that you mentioned as well, Irrational Fear. Again, big picture issues couched in humour in order to make them better absorbed and more accessible to the average Australian or global listener, really. What is it about Irrational Fear that you enjoy?
Oh, well, I just so much respect to Dan Illick. Just have to take a moment to praise that move, renting out those billboards in Times Square, simultaneously mocking the hollow climate policy and Scott's advertising career in one fell swoop. Chef's kiss. And it's that simple. Yeah. No, he's fantastic.
And again,
big respect to Dan. He's a fantastic comedian. And he also does his research.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's incredibly intelligent and just a lovely guy as well.
Because I don't like to dance around things. I'd rather just talk about things. And I think it's really a podcast like that is super important. And I think it's Jessiel, isn't it, who, created it. I think it's an important conversation to have because it's about feeling not alone, and also maybe talking about the things to identify, because we all think we're in, potentially normal relationships with people, and it isn't until, someone categorises, say, the characteristics of coercive control and the different types of personalities and behaviours that can be exhibited before someone might say, well, actually, I can relate to that. And isn't that a mind-blowing thing? And I wanted to ask you, for a podcast like The Trap, who should listen?
Everyone should listen to it. Yeah, because what's normalised now is sweeping things under the carpet, and therefore abuse is normalised in our culture. And power being held in the hands of perpetrators is normalised in our culture. So that's when people say, don't talk about it, shut up, I've heard enough of this, I'm too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Excuse me? Well, it is a great privilege for you that it's too uncomfortable for you to hear something. I reckon what's more uncomfortable is going through it.
That's why I think the podcasts like that are really important, and conversations, difficult conversations, need to be heard and normalised by everyone.
Yeah. The more and more we talk about it, the more and more we learn about it. And the more and more predators will start to get uncomfortable. The less and less they will feel like they can get away with it.
What's the next goal for you?
So the thing about change is that it's a marathon effort, and, you can't run 4Ks at a time because it's just simply not possible.
Yeah.
You have to take one step at a time.
Yeah.
And the creatively named Grace Tame Foundation have set a very specific, achievable goal, and that is to remove the word relationship from the crime of persistent child sexual abuse in every jurisdiction in Australia. Wherever we can, take power away from them, because pedophiles in particular are particularly sophisticated criminals, and, survivors are already disempowered and disenfranchised by virtue of the experience of losing agency through a disempowering crime, and we also want to focus on prevention through education. We've got a lot of work to do. Yeah. We've got to get to ground, and that's what we're going to do, and that's what I'm going to spend my time doing for the rest of my life, if that's what it takes, go hard or go home.
Yeah, I know what a powerhouse you are, and I know that you'll achieve anything you set your mind to. So,
yeah, well, I stand on the shoulders of giants, and I've got a big team surrounding me, and I'm very, very, very grateful for the work that's been done before me and the work that'll be done after me. So, thanks, Melissa.
Thank you so much, Grace. Thanks so much for watching. Head over to Spotify to check out a playlist featuring all the podcasts we covered today and more.